right, we are back again. Just waiting on everyone to get in. Hello, hello, come on in. Video's working, everything's working. So glad everyone's here. Auntie's got a good tan going on now. She's been jogging. Hello, hello. Thank y'all for coming back. Wait on our guests to get here. It is 9 a.m. Guam time. So, oh, she is here. So I'm going to go ahead and do my introduction, and then I will invite our lovely guest. Welcome again to Skoden Talks with the Homies with your Auntie Sage Chanel. It is a 1 year anniversary. I've been your host with Skoden Talks. Yay! So glad and so excited to be here on the anniversary, the day of, the exact day. I know last year it was blazing hot, and I did it like last minute, was not in no makeup or nothing, but we pushed through. But I'm glad y'all are here to celebrate my 1 year anniversary with them. Skoden Talks has been going on a little bit longer than I have been hosting, but I'm glad to be here with you for a whole year. So welcome again to IP3, Indigenous Peoples Power Project. IP3 is an organization that provides nonviolent direction action training, campaign strategy, and community organizing tools to support Indigenous communities taking action in defense of their homelands. For more information about IP3 or to send community training requests, you can visit the website at ip3action.org or contact info@ip3action.org. All right, let's see if I can add our... So excited. She's visiting from the whole other side of the world. Good morning, good morning. How are you?
Half a day. Okay.
Good morning. Have you had your coffee yet?
Yeah. I was like, I'm meeting Auntie Sage. I put on some lipstick. So,
I was actually just going to go plain Jane, and then I was like, I've got 2 hours because I usually pick up kids in the evening. So I was like, why not? Let's put some cosmetic on. Why not?
yeah.
And then I'm glad I did because I was like going through our old IP3s, and I was like, today's the exact day I started hosting. So yay.
Yeah, anniversary. Eva, not a lot
Happy,
left.
yes. Awesome. All right, well, let's go ahead. If you'd like to introduce yourself in your native language or however you'd like to, and we can go
Sure.
from there.
Well, Mag of Ogaan, half a day, Guahu Simaneka Flores, Ginin Guåhan, Ginin Lagos Dangani, family in Cabeçazu. Hello, my name is Naek Flores. My pronouns are she, they. I am calling in from my indigenous homeland in Guåhan in the Marianas Islands, also known as Lagos Dangani. And I'm just so honored to be here with you, Auntie Sage, and this is my actually, it's your anniversary, but this is my very first IG live chat like this, so I'm a little intimidated. I'm sure that is too.
Well, there's nothing formal about it. If you want to relax, kick
Yeah.
back. There's nothing crazy. Well, I'm not gonna ask you too much craziness. We just want to get to know you and know all the lovely work that you're doing, and try to see if we can uplift your work in any way we can. So sit back, relax. If you'd like to tell us a little about the work you've been doing, and how did you get involved in the work you're currently doing?
Sure. Well, I'm a member of Prutehi Litekyan, Ritidian, and we're a community-based organization. We started quite informally about 6 years ago. Litekyan is a sacred village that was taken by the original landowners and by eminent domain, and then was supposed to come back to the island as excess lands, but instead was turned over to the U.S. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife for a wildlife refuge. But now that's all getting thrown out for a firing range and a Marine base. And so that sacred area is part of the surface danger zone for that firing range. And so about 7 million rounds of ammunition will be fired right over this sacred land, right on top of our aquifer, not to mention all of the horrible clearing that's taken place for the construction of the Marine base right over the aquifer. They've desecrated many ancestral burials. They're posing serious threats to our sole source aquifer that provides our island 80 to 90% of our drinking water. And it's also, of course, keeping the return of those lands from those families who've been fighting for the return of their lands for 5 generations now. And for all of us in Guåhan, Litekyan is a sacred area. So they're also closing access to the larger community for 273 days out of the year. So we won't be able to go there for ceremony, to connect with our ancestors, to collect sacred medicine, and also for fishing. It's such a rich fishing area. And so not only is that land going to be occupied, but 3 miles out into the ocean will also be taken for the surface danger zone. And so that's a very rich fishing site. At 1 year, Gregorio Perez, a fisherman from Guåhan, who our marina is named after, caught this huge marlin that made the Guinness Book of World Records right in those waters. And our people have been fishing there for thousands of years, and those are the waters that are being taken by eminent domain. I'm sorry, as part of the surface danger zone. So our collective sort of started there, and I think in a lot of movements you're vulnerable, you're susceptible to harm, and so every time we experienced harm, we kind of got more insular and smaller, and so the organizing became a smaller group. But right now we're engaged in a lawsuit. We're suing the Air Force for their permit application for open burn and open detonation, and another sacred area on the other northern end of Guam. So if Litekyan is here, this other sacred area known as Talagi is here, and it's almost like on opposite ends of the northern side of the island where they're trying to do these horrible activities. And then we've organized a lot of actions, a lot of protests. We recently protested the renaming of the base. We've done a lot of educational campaigns, letter writing campaigns. We've worked with elders in offering ceremony for our community to find healing, because this is just constant, relentless trauma, and trauma that never really left our island to begin with, because every single family was impacted by land taking, almost every single family after the war. So that's a trauma that we've never healed.
There are no protection laws to protect the what y'all's doing with your ceremonial sites, or is there anything to preserve any of your tribals, anything?
Well, you bring up a really good question, because we are an unincorporated territory. So by definition of the Constitution, land and people are property. We don't have full protection of the Constitution. For instance, we don't have a voting delegate in Congress, and we don't vote for president. But aside from those issues, we've our been thwarted for over 100 years now. Gosh, for 150 years now. So we territorial status, because of our colonial status. We're a colony in real time, and a lot of people don't realize that, out of sight, out of mind, Guam's so far away. They don't imagine colony. And what the military is able to do is
I think we're having a little bit of speaker.
Oh, is that better? Is that better?
Yes,
Okay.
Now we are. Yeah, you were cutting in just a little bit, but you're good now.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so that's kind of everything in a nutshell. We do a lot. And I came into this work, I feel like in terms of activism, a lot of us find ourselves in different parts of the movement in different times in our lives. Some of us are, more focused on art. Some of us are more focused on decolonizing our immediate environments, our families, our homes, where we work. Some of us just existing we're all just existing is radical. But I came into more of the organizing role, more so in the last 6 years. I did work for a nonprofit for a long time where we couldn't, it kind of prevented us from taking a stand. Like we had to be this honest broker. And of course, a lot of these issues, you can't take that role of an honest broker, you know, of all the injustices, the harm to the land, the harm to our people. And you have to step out of that. So I left that job. And when I left that job, I was able to do more organizing work. And it was actually, a lot of us were radicalized too with the Festival for Pacific Arts that happened in 2016. There's this amazing Pacific Arts Festival. All these indigenous Pacific nations come together from Polynesia, Melanesia, and Micronesia every 4 years, and they share all kinds of art forms with each other, from chant and song and oratory to carving of all kinds, weaving to contemporary arts. And for colonized people, being in a space with Pacific Islanders like that was really healing and really radical. But also a lot of us were confronting a lot of internalized colonization. Some of us were feeling unworthy. Some of us were feeling that our culture had been eroded because of colonization, and we were carrying so much grief. And the main message from a lot of the other delegates from the other Pacific nations was like, hey, we're here to stand in solidarity with you in your homeland, and for us to uplift each other. And we are, you know, so we ended with a protest at the closing ceremony. And some of my friends actually in that protest who organized it are in the chat right now. And I just love them so much, or watching right now. Like I see Carrie Ann here and Amber. And so some of us, we were delegates in the Festival for Pacific Arts. So when we came out at the closing ceremony, we had these two big banners that said, decolonize the Pacific, free Guåhan. And that was a historic moment. And we looked out at the other delegations, and a lot of folks, you know, they just had tears in their eyes. And it was just a beautiful moment. It was a radical moment where, you know, even though we were with all of these amazing people who understood where we were in our colonial moment and our historic moment, and what we were healing, what we need healing from, and how we need each other, also seeing how dominant American colonization even remains even in those spaces. For instance, a large US flag, much bigger than the Guam flag, always hung on over the Guam flag in every large gathering, and all of us responded to that. A lot of the folks from Aotearoa, you know, from Fiji, they would be like, why is the United States flag hanging so much, you know, more prominently over the Indigenous flag? And so there were these conversations happening, and I think it was a real incredible moment of awakening and coming together as a people. And it really, I feel like, was one of the ways that one of the moments of transition in my life where I was like, I have to make this more of a central part of my everyday existence. I can, you know, existing is radical. Doing decolonization work in my day-to-day job, radicalizing where I can, is important. And it all is, you know. Some of us go to protests, some of us are doing things on our social media, but it was at that moment that it became just very clear that for me and for many of my friends, that we need to dedicate more of our time. And there have been many people, I just want to say this, there have been many great organizations and groups and elders and young folks who have come like way before us, like, you know, and who have been a part of the movement, you know. And the group that I'm part of, Prutehi Litekyan and Ritidian, has only been around for 6 years, but there have been many groups, and Independent Guåhan is a great group. We Are Guåhan is a great group. Our Islands Are Sacred. OPIR, the Organization of People for Indigenous Rights. We have all of these elders and other folks in our community who are always working hard for decolonization, for our Indigenous rights, for the environmental justice issues we have. And so, I think that those are just a few. That was just one of the catalyzing moments for me. And we've been going hard since then. So A lot of
It's
us,
beautiful.
yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
did. I, I think I messed up her name last time. Sayabon. I,
Siobhan,
yes,
Siobhan,
I interviewed
yeah.
her last year. I think she was like my second or third last year. We got to hear a little bit
Oh,
of then. And has anything's progressed since then? I think I interviewed her back in like June or July last year. Has anything got any better for y'all, or have
yeah,
y'all taken
yeah.
more steps back?
Well, Siobhan is amazing, an amazing poet, organizer, and is part of the youth initiative, Protect Guam Water. So it's really incredible to see the youth, they're doing things like they're citing this really dense document, the environmental impact statement, and they're pointing out like where the military themselves are, have identified the risks. And a lot of groups have done this over the years, but when it comes from young people, it's so powerful. It's just so powerful. And so we support all the different groups support each other. And
Yeah.
yeah, so they had a resolution, for instance, at the legislature that we helped. We also had a campaign around. We attended several hearings in the legislature. We had several campaigns that they supported. And yeah, it's, oh gosh, sorry, there's a plane going by.
It's okay.
Okay.
And I just
But
want to let our guests know at any time, if y'all have any questions, feel free to type it down and we'll get it asked as soon as we go through or as soon as I see it. So if y'all have anything to ask or just want to say hello and send your love, go ahead and type in the comments and we'll get it to her. But yeah, it's when you go into legislative, have they been like giving you like pushback, or are they very supportive of you, or are they just kind of like putting you all on the back burner?
Well, we've been involved in a few different strategies. We've been involved, in, of course, in local policy and advocacy. We've been involved in national advocacy, and we've also done some international advocacy. Now, the efforts have all been great. There've been some moments in history that we could be really proud of. For instance, at the beginning of the pandemic, we worked with human rights attorney, Indigenous badass, my Chelu Julian Uggan, who filed a petition for us with the United Nations Special Rapporteurs on Indigenous Rights, Human Rights, and the Environment, and it resulted in the very first communication from the United Nations Special Rapporteurs to the United States government for the ongoing human rights and indigenous rights violations that we're experiencing here because of the military expansion and buildup. Now, the results of that was a historic moment. We were so proud. The Biden administration didn't really respond, of course, in the way that we wanted, but the efforts haven't stopped there. That was a monumental moment, and it resulted in another special rapporteur. It helped with other advocacy because then another special rapporteur came out with another effort that was organized by our friend Manny Cruz, and then which we also supported. And then we're still pushing for things like a delegation to come here to see the violations. We're working with different groups too, like Earth Justice, Center for Biological Diversity, Human Rights Watch. We are trying really hard, and we're really working to connect with other indigenous organizers as well, because Guam is erased. Chamorro people are erased over and over and over again. So it's hard to kind of bring the message from Guåhan and the Marianas because a lot of people don't understand the context in which these things are happening to us, the historic and colonial context, and it's heavy. It's hard to talk about, and it's hard to condense like in a really succinct way. Like sometimes people are like, "Well, what's it like living on Guam?" Like, do you have time? Let's have a seat. Let's get some nice drink and sit around for a while. But but we still work with Julie and a lot of other really critical advocacy efforts internationally and nationally. And then we also we've been trying to go to certain meetings, environmental committee meetings, talking to EPA, but also like locally, we have seen some positive change. Like for instance, last year in December, the legislature passed a bill that banned open burning. So now open burning isn't an option. Open burning of hazardous waste specifically isn't an option for the military because it's against the law here. However, they can still blow things up on the beach. And so that's what we're fighting because open detonation and open burning. So first of all, I need to say that in World War II, Guåhan or Guam, was occupied by Japanese forces. And then there was a violent American recapture. And we were actually, when we were in, attacked by the Japanese Imperial forces, it was just hours away from Pearl Harbor. So just to put it into context, and we were occupied, from 1941 to 1944, and then the reoccupation happens, or what people refer to as Liberation Day, and it was a violent recapture. Our island was carpet bombed. And not just Guåhan, but the northern islands, many parts of Micronesia were devastated. The physical, spiritual, cultural landscape was forever changed in that moment. And war is really an evil you never unsee. Our people are still carrying the pain and trauma of that. Yeah. Where some of my grandparents were war survivors, so I'm just a couple generations away from it. But that being with that in mind, we're finding explosives here all the time, and so and the military has no idea. They've told us publicly that they have no idea about how many explosives remain here, and
this is this in the water and on the land.
Yes, and they don't often report like what they're finding, where they're finding it, how often they detonate. So there's also a lack of transparency. We're on the outside and they're on the inside, and we can't. It's like we can't get anybody on the inside to report back to us. That's just not a part of it. And we're need to be outsiders in our own land, and that's happening on a sacred area that was taken by CHamoru's after the war for defense purposes. And actually my family lost several acres of land, ranch land that was very close to that area. And so there's also a personal connection, driving through that land that was taken from our family is traumatic anytime we do it, and it's painful anytime we do it, for me anyway. And then to know that that's happening so close, near ancestral burials, near turtle nesting grounds, near where our medicines grow, and near our aquifer, and also in a very rich fishing area, where our folks have been fishing for thousands of years. It's devastating. It's just senseless violence, and the fact that they have not looked at any safer alternatives to treat their waste. They're basically saying the people of Guam are not worthy of us looking at these alternatives. So we're just going to continue to contaminate the air, the water, the land with blowing up our hazardous wastes. And so that's actually why we're taking them to court. And, we're also looking at other legal strategies and other kinds of strategies. We're looking at all the strategies, really, as many as we can. And with our actions also, they're going to really increase, because we're going to see the relocation of the Marines from Okinawa to Guam. And the operation of the live fire training range complex happening this year and next. So by the end of this year and starting next year, we'll see folks transferring, the Marines transferring, and then the firing range going into operation. So we're going to have more, protests, more direct action, and we really need to think about how we keep each other safe. What we need to learn. We had our very first interaction with police in January of this year, and SWAT. It was relatively peaceful. However, we learned a lot, and it could have gone a completely different way if international media wasn't there. But so we're also looking at training, capacity building, which is how we're connected to IP3. IP3 has been a great collaborator and supporter, and we're really grateful for the collaboration with IP3, because we do need as much help as we can get to prepare our folks and keep each other safe. And it's hard work, it's exhausting, and so we need things to strengthen our spirits and our minds. So really grateful.
We need more leaders like you. We need the babies to step up, because you are doing amazing work and telling these stories. We are just helping you get that story out there on a bigger platform. And don't feel nervous. Tell your story. You're doing great. Because you're telling it like it needs to be told. And hopefully this gets to the ears it needs to, so we can help you, uplift you, and send you whatever you need to get your land back. Because, wow, I don't think people can hear this story enough to understand what's actually going on over there. And it's amazing that you're in it and so young. And I mean, we need more people like you on this earth.
Well, I'm young. I'm young-ish, but I'm actually anti-status. I just want to. I'm almost anti-status. I'm not anti-sage status because you're in your own status. Which is why I had to put on lipstick today. But I'm trying. But yeah. I'm not. I have a young. But I don't know. I have a young spirit, but I am not young.
Yeah.
Not yet. I got a lot of white hair.
We're gonna tell the uncles and aunties you are young. We're gonna leave it there.
But we do have a lot of young folks. I want to say, coming to our protests, especially lately, we have a lot of high school students, young college students, and folks. I mean, it's incredible. So really, they're the ones who are making us consider, like, what, there's so many things we've been doing organically, and we've been very blessed that we haven't experienced police violence. It has happened here in protests. It just hasn't happened since maybe the 90s. We haven't seen police violence in CHamoru rights, Indigenous rights protests or land protests. But with this military activity increasing, and also when the Marines come here, there's going to be conflict. I mean, they acknowledge that as well. There's going to be conflict between the local Indigenous community, other islanders who call Guam home, and the military who move here. I mean, it's just a truth. It's just a truth that there's going to be an increase in crime and an increase in violence. And so we have to really get our folks prepared and really think about how we keep all the young folks who come and work with us safe, the folks who come to these spaces safe. And our police are quite militarized. A lot of them are, either in the military currently or are veterans. And so,
and
is
it mainly military from here in the U.S., or is there actually like locals that is joining the military now?
Well, I was about to say, in the police force, they're all our people. A lot of them are our relatives. They all look like us, so it also complicates the issue. Poverty is a serious issue here in Guåhan. In the territories and a lot of Native communities, poverty is a serious issue, and that's where high rates of military recruitment occur. Whether it's Guåhan, other parts of Micronesia, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, near the border towns, everywhere. The high recruitment. In fact, we've been referred to as recruiters' paradise because of the bonuses recruiters get for signing young folks up. And for a lot of young folks, I mean, we are a poor community, and I don't think we talk about it as honestly and as we don't confront it the way we need to, because for a lot of young folks, it's not a unique thing for someone to grow up here and never have traveled to the United States because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
It's actually quite common, for folks to not travel much, and for a lot of folks, they see the military as their first ticket off Guam. Their chance to go to college, their chance to get a job, because they have a hard time finding a job here, the chance to help their family. But so enlistment's really high, and I mean, I think every single family just about has at least one person serving, or a vet, or someone who's a veteran, and it does complicate our work for decolonization, our work for demilitarization, and then when it comes to our actions, we will see more engagement with our police, and so we do want to think about a different way of approaching security and care, from an Indigenous perspective as well, but also a very real perspective that, like, those might be our chalus, those might be our cousins and our friends, but we also, there's ways we can't engage. There's ways we have to keep ourselves safe, and also we have to decide, like, when to escalate and when not to escalate, because so, for instance, in January we protested the renaming of the Marine base, and we decided we can't escalate there. We don't want to, we won't risk arrest or physical interaction. So let's not escalate that, because we need to, let's save it for when, when, I don't know, it's hard. It's hard. You don't want
Is
people to get
is
hurt or
there
go to
any
jail.
is
Yeah.
there any efforts like being made now to create a stronger relationship with your police and military to where y'all can work together and hopefully move forward in peace?
Well, there's definitely performative roles, right? We see coming from the government side, like a community liaison role, for instance, or a cultural liaison role. Um, and we have some of our own folks working, like, for instance, in our federal side, and it's difficult because on the one hand, you want some of our own people, you want our own people on that side to be the guardians, to be the caretakers, to be the advocates for those of us on the outside. But at the same time, we have to recognize that that they have to shut something off. Maybe they have to compartmentalize something to do the work that they're doing. And in some cases, it's also more serious than that. People are complicit. They are buying into the rhetoric. They're regurgitating those dominant narratives that the military is here to keep us safe, that the military cares about our environment, that the military cares about our culture, and that's just not true. I mean,
Not the case.
it's just not the case. And so it's all those things, I guess. It's all those layers, and um, we may consider, a liaison on our side, but we also need to recognize that the priority, of course, is also to protect our strategies, to protect our folks, and we've definitely thought about it. We know, some of us know some police officers. It's been like, for instance, if we've had a protest before, we've given a courtesy, like, hey, we're going to this area that's really dark at night to do this protest. If somebody has a cousin working, they might tell their cousin, but that was years ago. It's now we're in a totally different time where, we need to think about security in a very different way. And so we're thinking about security in a very different way. Because it's just going to get heated with the Marines coming, with the firing range going into operation, with that surface danger zone being activated, with access being taken away from us. It's going to, and then of course with the violence, with the conflicts we're going to see arise when the Marines come here, because you see it anywhere, whether it's in Okinawa, in Hawaii, in the Philippines. There's definitely an increase in gendered violence, and all kinds of other crime. So it can be increase in DUIs, it could be increase in car accidents, it could be an increase in helicopter crashes that contaminate resources. All of it, we will see an increase of violence to the land and in our community. And then they also make us a bigger target for war. And so that's something that we really need to talk about, because as this war between Russia and Ukraine continues to drag on now for over a year, we have to ask ourselves, when is it going to stop? When is true peace and diplomacy going to actually happen? But we need to really think about that now when we're looking at the conflict or the tensions with China and North Korea and Guam, and the Marianas Islands north of us, and other parts of Micronesia and the Philippines right now are experiencing a massive military buildup, which, we saw bases closed in the Philippines. We heard their president say they will never open those bases again. And now, years later, these bases are reopening, and they're building up. Our bases are building up. Now they want to build a missile defense system where they take more land, they clear more land. The issue of explosives has come up in some of the comments already, that they know when they take the land, they got to worry about the explosives that exist there, that they might find ancestral remains, cultural resources. We have to think about how it's going to impact erosion and the water, because they're clearing a lot of land. Some of the land is on military occupied areas, but some of it is not. It's in newer areas, and in the south, and there's a lot of contamination here. We have 19 Superfund sites that have not been addressed. We have a long legacy of environmental racism from the military. Here, tons of contamination sites, and so now we have to ask ourselves: is all that destruction worthy of a system of the technology that we don't understand, that we're not sure works, and then also that these actually make us a bigger target for war, for attack? We've had war here before. We definitely don't want to see it again. But every case study about what will happen to, in case the United States does go into conflict with China or North Korea, and every study, we will be totally devastated, our island, because, as we know, the war, it's not gonna be limited to the military occupied areas. All of the whole island will be impacted permanently. And so it's a serious, there's so many issues and that are connected, and it's just, I'm smiling because it's overwhelming. It's not because I find this funny or joyful. It's because sometimes when I hear myself say it out loud, and it's like,
wow.
Wow.
This is my reality.
Yeah, this is our reality. And, we have military exercises here all the time. And there's other military exercises in the Pacific, in Hawaii and Australia, such as RIMPAC or the Talisman Sabre, that we are impacted by too, because as the forces move throughout the Pacific, they come through Guam. They come through Guåhan. We've had thousands of troops come through here with heavy artillery, and then we'll see like a spike in COVID numbers, for instance. So those things happen here all the time. It's constant. And, I guess, so that's one of the things about our work that I find so important, is that the two things is, one is that we bear witness. It's hard to bear witness sometimes to these things. We bear witness, we share the information, we try to share as much as possible. Some of it is very difficult to share because it's traumatizing. Looking at the firing range, looking at the land that they're clearing, looking at explosives going off in the jungle. We don't really want to see these images, but unfortunately we have to, and we have to report this information so our community can be activated, can know what's happening and be activated. But also another thing we do, which I feel is so important, is build spaces, nurture spaces, whether it's through protest or ceremony or any other time we can gather. We helped host a conversation event last Friday. We want to do some more art events, but anytime we can create a space where folks can feel connected, and where we share our values, where we practice our ways with each other, but in a radical space for confronting directly the things, that the violence that's happening to us. It's very healing and empowering. And so we also, that's something I'm really proud of, is and it's not just our group, it's so many groups and so many individuals doing this hard work every single day. When I think of like Gumali or Mali'i, the Mali'i projects, and Jeremy Cepeda, who's focusing on chant and ceremony, or I think about like the Pacific Center for Island Security, that's really looking at these geopolitical issues from an Indigenous and Islander perspective. What does it mean to have these missile launchers and missile defense systems here? What does it really mean for our community to have that around us? They're the ones asking those questions, and they're a think tank, so they're looking at a lot of dense strategy and analysis, and helping inform us. Or the Finoki Coalition, which is a collective of all these other community groups, including Prutehi Litekyan's a member, as well as Independent Guåhan. And so doing all this important work to engage the community in these conversations. There's so many people doing work, and so many elders who've been doing this for so long, and I'm just so grateful. I guess that's where my point in bringing that up is that's where I find joy and strength, is in these moments. Because, and I feel like it's time to pause, because I was saying all of these horrible facts, realities, devastating truths, and I felt like in that moment I just needed to kind of pause and say, we're also strong, and we also do this because we love our island and our people, and we know that we're worthy of more, and we should demand peace in our homelands, and diplomacy, and for us and for all future generations. And so I got to bring it back there, because sometimes,
and more
it's hard
important, More
get out of
importantly,
bed.
that y'all are doing y'all's ceremonies and bringing everybody together. That is so important because one day it could be taken away, and y'all are still making spaces for this. Continue doing that. Continue to teach these young ones and make it known how important this work and these ceremonies is, because it's our everyday life. It's to make sure we are continue on this earth, and if they're gonna wipe us clean, it's really not worth it. It's told time and time again how it has shown where we've been wiped off. All of our indigenous people have been wiped off from all their homelands, and we are just now getting back to where we want to be. And you've talked about decolonization, and I just want to know, from your point of view, what does decolonization look like in your eyes in this day and time?
Yeah, well, first, I feel like land back is the place to start, you know, land back. If we start with land back, so much healing. We will see so much healing, healing of our land, of our water, healing of our lifeways, of our language. Our connection to the land was violently impacted by militarization and colonization. I mean, all the land taking, but it's when you forcefully remove folks from the land like that, and you occupy it, you're impacting our stories, you're impacting our ceremony, you're impacting everything, our practices, how we collect medicine, how we know name places. It's all so connected. And then, you know, not to mention all of the contamination and the invasive species that have impacted our ecosystems brought in by the military and the colonizers. Land back, you know, that's impacted all of our ways, our life ways and our language. And so land back is, I feel like, really a place to start. And decolonization means so the return of those federally and military occupied lands to the landowners for us to use in sustainable ways, for us to reconnect to our ancestors in those lands. And then I always think like clean water, you know, clean water for everybody. That's, you know, decolonization is not having to worry about that basic right, that basic thing that we all need to live. It's the source of life, and why are we fighting so hard to protect it? You know,
And the
from
military, they're going to need that too. And for them to try to put that in jeopardy is just mind blowing. Like, you're going to need that too. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot more trying to ship it in and
right,
keep it there, because it's going to be a commodity that is going to
right.
be unaffordable for the locals. Like, it's ridiculous.
That's right. That's right. It's commodification is such a major problem because that's what starts the conflict. That's what will start wars. Is when it's commodified like that. And you're right. It's not just about national security. It's about genuine security for all people, all living things. And so, clean water is just such a place where we should start. And how people see ourselves as separate from the environment just makes no sense at all. So, I feel like decolonization looks like those very specific things for me: land back, water, clean water, our water being restored. You know, it's like land back, water back, bodies back also. I feel like, you know, here in Guåhan, for instance, we saw a copycat bill of the heartbeat bill that was introduced in Texas, that was introduced here, and land and body sovereignty are so connected. And so then we see the overreach of the Supreme Court in undoing, you know, and doing this, and the violence that happens to our bodies happens to the land. The violence that happens to the land happens to our bodies. And so these things are so connected. And so I also feel like for me, decolonization is bodies back as well. And of course, also the protection of our, you know, our LGBTQ, queer, two-spirited and trans relatives and selves. We've been marginalized. That's part of our colonial reality as well, that in a lot of ways, we've been at the center of decolonization work, but also erased at the same time. In a lot of ways, we've been exploited, and people have been socialized to accept that that's what our role is to just give, what you know, what's often not reciprocated. And we don't get the protections that we need and the support we need. So I also feel like decolonization is very much aligned with body, with those issues of body sovereignty and also, liberation of our folks, and specifically of our Indigenous LGBTQ queer trans and two-spirit folks. And I also feel like decolonization is really the moment where we say, we get to map. All these outsiders drew these maps and these boundaries and these lines, and we get to remap. We get to throw it away and start over. Somebody made all of this crap up. We can undo it all.
Yes, and they've made it very hard for us. And
Yeah.
I feel like with our colonization, I feel like the religions have really wiped us from has shut our mouth. We have been silenced for so long, and now that we've finally got a voice and we can say no to that, we can move away and finally get our voice back and learn our traditions and learn that we were warriors, learn that we were fighters, and learn that the two spirits, everyone was a part of the circle, and everything that was erased is now starting to come back alive. And I live that here. I get to see that. And when I first got asked that question, that was kind of how I felt with decolonization, was to shut out the religions, to not listen. Don't let them be the number one voice. Let your inner self be the inner voice and make your own decisions, because I feel like that has governed our own government, our everything. It has been so dominant, and now that we are moving away with it and getting back to our traditions, our people are being heard a lot more. So it's a lot, and I feel you, sis. I am here with you this whole time. I'm so glad you are getting to talk. You're getting so much love, and they are commenting. I don't know if you're keeping up with it, but they've got some nothing but love for you.
Yeah.
The next question I have is, coming from a Pacific Islander community, what's important for people to know about AAPI representation during this month of recognition and beyond?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. The Pacific Islander in AAPI often gets erased, and Pacific Islander is just so broad and so vast. I mean, the spans of the ocean, the languages, the cultures. It's just it's sort of it's so hard. It's so frustrating to sort of be, to see like this amalgamation. In some ways it's just not enough, because in the one hand it's meant to uplift and acknowledge Asian American, Pacific Islander Americans, right? But it's erasure also. It's erasure simultaneously for everybody because I mean, we're so diverse, Asians and Pacific Islanders, and sometimes there's overlap, sometimes there's not, and also the tag onto American at the end, Asian American, Pacific Islander American, it assumes that we also take that identity for ourselves, that we are not seeking our own sovereignty, liberation, decolonization, that it assumes that everybody sort of has a certain kind of story that we have like some kind of dream of becoming American, but we don't. We don't. I mean, we have dreams for our native people, like we have dreams for land back. We have dreams for justice, and that are very different, even from each other sometimes. So it's a tough one. We do see like a lot of our beautiful Manyetlu who live in the diaspora, who celebrate, and we support what they're doing because they are building community where they're at. They're celebrating identity and history and culture where they're at, and they're practicing their forms where they're at, and of course we love that. Of course we celebrate and honor that. It's, I think, the larger context, of a pseudo holiday, which just is a federal action really, and was done just like unilaterally also. Like, who asked us? Did anybody ask us? Like,
Do we
everything's
get a
done.
say at this?
Yeah.
Like,
They're like, hey, do y'all want to be a part of this? And I don't know if
they seem a little cliquish. I don't know. Like,
you know, so it's a little, there's a lot of things though that happen like that unilaterally for us folks in the Pacific and in the colonies and the territories. A lot of unilateral decisions like, oh, we'll just take this and we'll make it a monument. We'll just take this, you know, and we're protecting it for all Americans. It's like, hold on, man. Hold on a second. That's more federal control. That's more colonial control. That's more militarized control. You know, maybe even more economic control. So that's not indigenous stewardship. That's not indigenous care. And where's the collaboration? And then they use words like co-management. Yeah, it's just some of it is manipulative. Some of it is to divide and conquer. You know, because so we have to be critical of some of these things, whether it's AAPI or, you know, whether it's a park, a national park, or whether it's a new site they want to take for a monument or for a base, that, you know, there's a total lack of free, prior, and informed consent for Native folks time and time again. We see it here. This is a violation of our Indigenous rights, and it's a violation of the law. So, yeah.
yeah.
So it's just like consent. Where's the consent? Where's the real collaboration? Where's the stuff with teeth in it, where Indigenous folks are really taking the lead, you know? And it's hard to see it. There's so many things that just kind of happen. Like an AAPI is just, I guess, it's loaded, right? Because it's like, on the one hand, it's honoring us, it's celebrating us, on the other hand, it's got its issues. It's problematic. So yeah.
It can be its own problem sometimes.
Yep.
So to get off all the hard questions and let us all breathe again, what is there a traditional food that you like or make?
Ooh.
Or is soul medicine for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's many really. I love, like, I have, the first thing that comes to mind is is Kelaguen. You know, Kelaguen is like it's like salt. It's a mix of acid and salt, and we make it with fish, deer, shrimp. My favorite is fish. Yeah, and beef, chicken. You know, sometimes they grill they barbecue the chicken, and then it has like salt, hot peppers, lemon. It's really good. Onions. And so that is definitely, like, if you would come to Guam, we would feed you that. Anything with coconut milk is delicious. So we cook like breadfruit or lemai with coconut milk, bananas with coconut milk. We'd feed you that. That's a staple. I could eat that every day. I I also really love soup, like kadu. It's so healing, and I make good kadu. So that's definitely where we see like a fusion of Spanish and indigenous culture, you know. And so soups, kadu, is something that I love to make and eat, and I find quite healing. And tuba is actually also, it's a slow drip coconut fermentation. It's kind of like a kombucha toddy. It's delicious, and it's and but that was sort of introduced too, so it's kind of like a Filipino Chamorro fusion, and so, but I love it, and we've made it. It's been here for a while, so it's very much a part of the Chamorro cultural practice, and we love it. You know.
Oh, I bet the flavors on that is amazing.
Yeah, I just had some on Sunday, so I need it. Yeah, so it's so good. So those are some of my faves, and yeah, and we'd love for you to come here, so, and for you to try all this. We invite you.
The flight, Auntie would have to be cocktailed, because I hate flying unless there's a good canoe I can just float on all the way. Because I mean, I think I could do a boat. I can do a boat better than a plane, but the plane, oh my gosh.
Oklahoma is far, so it would probably take you about 24 hours to get here. It'd be about 3 flights. Yeah, so.
Just flying over land got me. We was like flying over Houston over the ocean. I was like, what are we doing? So yeah, it's a flight that gets me, but if there's a good old boat I can take across, without sinking. I'm not trying to be a Titanic story either. So, um, we had just had that one. What
Okay.
advice would you have for young folks or folks looking to get connected in the movement style you work?
Oh, well, gosh. I think I was I have a lot of different kinds of advice for young folks. I just actually met with a group of young folks yesterday trying to encourage them to do a campaign. I can't really say much more, but it's to decolonize their space at school. And, I talked to them about some strategies, like about, whether we do, like, do you want to do an online letter writing campaign? Do you want to do physical signatures where all the students sign it? Do you want maybe the letter writing campaign to go to the school board? Do you want, do you want to do a on-campus protest? Do you want to do a social media thing? But moreover, like how we started that whole conversation with just really good questions, like, what do you know about this issue? What do you know about this time in Guam when this happened? And it was really interesting because they were like, well, we don't know anything. We need to research it. So we kind of broke up into different groups, and people researched like the history of the school, for instance, the history of the name of the school, where Guam was at the time that the school was dedicated and named after a colonizer. And I'm like, well, what do we know about the colonizer? And they were like, well, we actually don't know much. I was like, right, because you don't feel connected to that person. Well, who would you feel connected to? Who should the school be named after? Who means something to you? And also, now let's find out what are some things we didn't know about that colonizer that we realized we don't like, and how do we feel about that? So just having those kinds of conversations, asking really good questions, doing the research, talking to each other. And a lot of young folks too, they're also intimidated talking about issues around decolonization, political status, military. And so I would say nothing's wrong with feeling intimidated. These are hard conversations. We're all carrying a lot of grief and pain around these issues. And sometimes, our families have to work for these harmful institutions because that's capitalism. That's colonial reality that we live in every single day. So it does, how do we have these conversations and to draw strength from each other, to know you're not alone, to know that there are resources available, like folks like me or groups like Independent Guåhan who can help you kind of with pointers about how to talk to your families. Because, for instance, on Liberation Day or Reoccupation Day, there's this counter narrative work that happens where we go to this parade, which is so militarized. Oh my gosh, like the military they bring out all of their vehicles and all these people in uniform are marching. It's supposed to celebrate our survival of World War II, and our people, but it's become appropriated and militarized. And so counter narrative work is so important there, but it's hard for young folks to do it. But so for instance, Independent Guåhan has this a bunch of points, some of which are like, for instance, some of the Marines who happen to come here and who are admitting years later, like, we thought we were going to liberate Guam, but Guam as a colony, we never truly liberated that island. And one of our own heroes, a CHamoru Marine themselves, who has said, we're Ben Blas, we're equal in times of war, but not in times of peace. And so when they bring up, these points, then they help people reconsider the dominant narrative, question it, challenge it. So there's just so much. It's just really in conversation and in community that we can find healing, share knowledge, and help build each other's strengths and skills to do the difficult work and have the difficult conversations. And of course, we also want to meet you where you're at, so if you're not comfortable going to the legislature to provide testimony, maybe we can help you write a letter. If you're not comfortable, going to a protest, maybe you can share stuff on social media, or maybe it's your own art. Maybe it's just in your own, day to day. Maybe, you're growing food. Maybe you're learning your language, maybe our language, maybe you're spending time with elders. Maybe you're learning about traditional healing and picking up that practice. All of that is so important. It's such an important part of the movement work. It's not there's no one right way to do things. There's no wrong time to come to the movement, no wrong way to come. Unless your intentions are not aligned. But, obviously if people have those intentions and it's with the intention of justice and healing and care and love for our land and people, then that's just the perfect place to start. And a lot of young folks can feel intimidated, like they don't know enough, but that's just where it's great to ask questions, do the research, and reach out to folks who are organizers who can help point you in the direction of some of that information or help you practice even some of these skills. So those are just
visibility is
yeah.
so important, and you have been very visible for these younger generations to come. I mean, it's now time for aunties to stand up, whether they're young aunties or old aunties, but
Yeah.
it's important for that work to be done, because our young generation, I think it's important for us to be visible for them, because they don't know what that looks like. They don't know until they see that work, or unless they finally hear it. They're like, "Open your eyes. This is what's going on around you, babies."
Yeah.
Like, if we
Yeah.
don't start now, we won't have a tomorrow. So,
Yeah.
um,
I feel like we've
we're
got a lot of things to learn from the young folks. The young folks teach me all the time, about radical honesty, radical care, um, and joy and curiosity and resilience and the permission to play and the permission to also heal our inner children. We're parenting ourselves. We're all the time, especially I feel like as queer, LGBTQ folks, like we are reparenting. We're healing so much of the erasure and trauma we also face on top of the, it's all connected. This colonial trauma, this. So I do want to give a shout out to Gumagela, who's this amazing Indigenous CHamoru queer collective that they did this wonderful call for artwork at the beginning of the pandemic, and they made our very first sort of zine or a collection of queer CHamoru creative writing and visual art, and it was so far-reaching, and it also connected our communities between the diaspora and home islands. And they do all kinds of amazing work where they're at in Washington State, in Duwamish territory, but they, are so far reaching. They've come home. It's just so far reaching. And it's also part of the work. And I just want to just give them a shout out. And they have a beautiful zine. They've got a beautiful Instagram. They do exhibits. There's going to be an exhibit coming out at the Wing Loop Museum. Yeah, they just do amazing things. So I just also want to give them a shout out because I just love them so much.
and it's Pride all year round.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the end of our interview. So how can we uplift your work? Do you have an Instagram, Facebook, or is there any pages you'd like to give a shout out? Or is there any way we can donate to your causes or any kind of way?
I got a call coming in.
Oh.
I forgot to put do not disturb on. Yes, if you could follow there's many groups to follow on Instagram. There's the group that I organize. There's some of the groups that I organize with Prutehi Litekyan, Save Ritidian, Independent Guåhan, the Fanogi Coalition. There's also many other great groups out of Guåhan, Micronesia Climate Change Alliance, Protect Guam Water. Gosh, I hope I'm not forgetting anybody else, who's just doing some really amazing work. Oh, and also looking at the Northern Marianas Islands, our Commonwealth 670. We colonization has separated our islands. We are this is the Marianas Archipelago near the Trench, and this is the indigenous homelands of our people. And colonial history has separated us, and we need to really rethink that. And so please follow the folks from the Northern Marianas, our Commonwealth 670. All of those groups, donations to any of those groups would be great. We don't have a place really for people to donate posted on any of our social media in terms of the groups. Prutehi Litekyan, Independent Guåhan does have a Patreon for the podcast and other things, and you can get some cool gear from Independent Guåhan. But just following us on social media, following our stories and our posts. We share a lot of things, not just for our work, but for people who we work in solidarity with, these other groups and other communities also impacted by colonization and militarization. And so there's constant calls to action, whether it's to sign and share a petition or to come to conversation or to come present testimony. So just follow us, really, and then any opportunities for fundraisers or for actions will be posted. And yeah, we're always looking at collaboration. So we're really grateful too for IP3 and just yeah for looking forward to just the continued collaboration. And it's so great to meet you. I am a fan, and I'm so honored to be here with you. You look so beautiful, and
Thank you.
yeah,
I feel like I'm a little washed out today, but we're okay.
no, you look great. I put on a tiny bit. I should have done more.
And so I was like, well, I kept looking. I was like, well, it's my year anniversary. I was like, let's go for it. Why not?
Yes,
Uh,
Malatla, celebrate.
well, I'm
Yeah,
glad to have you. You were a wonderful guest to have on my anniversary with IP3, and thank you so much for sharing just your everyday efforts that you have been doing. You are doing phenomenal. I enjoyed your interview. Hopefully we can come and meet past again, and hopefully I can meet you
yeah,
in the future again and see where we're
yeah.
at. And
Yeah.
thank you for being with us this morning.
Oh, Hagmas, thank you more, Anti-Sage. And yeah, we'd love for you to come to Guåhan, but if not, maybe if we're in Oklahoma, we'll let you know. And
Well, I'll take you to Stomp Dance. I'll take you to Shawnee dances. I'll feed you
yes.
some squirrel and some cornbread. Like we just had our
Uh,
dances last weekend and we got rained out. So,
oh,
but we still
wow.
danced in the rain. It was
Beautiful.
refreshing. So,
Oh, gorgeous. Oh, wow. I love it. Yeah, I would love. I'm down. I'm so down. I would love it. I would love to see you there. So,
well, Instagram, thank you for
Mika
joining us. I
Mas.
hope you enjoyed Naek just as much as I did.
Yes, thank you so
Please
much.
continue to follow IP3 and share the video. Our videos also get posted on YouTube, so if you want to share or if you want to tell people about us, find us on YouTube, find us here on IP3. Our other interviews of our amazing other guests are still on there too. Thank you again for having me for a whole year, IP3. This has been a pleasure. Hopefully we continue to keep doing it. We've come to the end of our interview and we will say goodbye.
Mika Masi.
Listen to me.